So last Friday night, I was browsing Twitter before heading to bed when I started to see talk of new Vive headsets popping up on my feed. I thought to myself, I wonder if we're finally getting a worthy successor to the original Vive. So you may remember that last year, HTC discontinued the original Vive, and the Cosmos sort of stepped in as its replacement. However, the Cosmos was it was a bit of a disaster. The tracking was terrible on it. I remember trying one of the launch Cosmi? Anyway, and the thing wouldn't even track the headset properly, let alone the hands. Now, from what I understand, a lot of that has been improved thanks to software updates. It's a lot better than it was. However, it's still not good enough that I could ever recommend buying that headset. To make matters even worse was the price of the headset. They were trying to sell the Cosmos for, wait, how much? $700. They were trying to sell this for $700 US, which put it at almost twice the price of its closest competitor, the Rift S. And by all means, the Rift S was a better headset because its tracking actually works. HTC is no stranger to overpricing things though. The Vive Pro and all the pricing of that is something I could rant on for quite a while, but I won't. We'll just keep it to the Vive Cosmos because that's what we have to talk about this time. So the one cool thing that the Cosmos did is that it has replaceable faceplates. So on the Vive Cosmos, the whole front part that houses all the tracking actually detaches. Now the idea behind this was that they wanted to introduce different tracking systems for the Cosmos, and they did mention a lighthouse-based tracking faceplate that essentially would have all these little dots, these little trackers the original Vive has, but you could just slide it onto the front of your Cosmos. And that brings us to these new headsets that HTC has announced. Yes, headsets. Not just one, not two, but 3 new headsets. All of which are based on the Cosmos frame, I guess you could call it that. They just have different faceplates with different features. So these 3 headsets are the Vive Cosmos Play, the Vive Cosmos XR, and the Vive Cosmos Elite. Now the Elite's the one that I'm actually going to be talking about because it was the one that stood out the most to me. It's the one that we probably have the most information about, and it's not looking too good. So like I said earlier, I've been waiting for a while for HTC to release a proper follow-up to the original Vive. The Vive Pro was never that. It was priced way out of proportion for what it actually was. The Cosmos was its own weird disaster that doesn't even come close to the original Vive in quality. But now we have the Vive Cosmos Elite. And this headset is essentially a bundle of the Vive Cosmos frame and that lighthouse tracking faceplate that I mentioned earlier. So it's got the exact same screen and lenses that the Vive Cosmos has. However, it's actually got some decent tracking with it. So I thought, cool, this could be good. Could be a decent successor. Then I saw what else it came with. Yep, that's right. Those are Lighthouse 1.0 base stations and Vive ones. Those things are about 4 years old now. Those things had their successor, the Lighthouse 2.0 base stations and ones, come out 2 years ago now. So why the heck is there Lighthouse 1.0 gear coming with the Vive Cosmos Elite? It's like super outdated, and the controller design was never really that good anyway. That's pretty desperately in need of a refresh as well. So this is weird, I thought. Maybe it'll be priced okay. And then I kept scrolling, and I saw the price, and they're trying to charge $900 US for the Vive Cosmos Elite, which is only $100 cheaper than the Valve Index, which comes with Lighthouse 2.0 base stations and Valve Index controllers, like actually good VR controllers. So I have no idea what HTC is trying to go for here. They're selling a headset that has worse specs than the Valve Index. Aside from the resolution, the resolution on the Cosmos is a bit higher, but the field of view and the frame rates are a lot higher on the Index. They're trying to sell it with 4-year-old base stations and controllers, like really outdated tech, and they're trying to sell it for almost the same price as a Valve Index. And I'm like, who's gonna buy this? Who in their right mind is gonna buy this headset? Why would you price it that much? I mean, I really shouldn't be expecting more from HTC anymore, because their pricing for VR has made 0 sense ever since the original Vive. Original Vive pricing was fine because there was nothing else out there. It wasn't too bad. The original Vive launched at $800 US, which is it's $100 cheaper than the Cosmos Elite. And that was fine because its only competitor then was the Rift. And the Vive had controllers for a year before the Rift had controllers. It had room scale tracking, whereas the Rift you always had to buy that third sensor to get good room scale setup. So versus the competition, the increased price over the original Rift was worth it. There was actually a reason to buy the Vive over the Rift. The Vive Pro, things started to get a little bit muddy. Now that launched, once the 2.0 base stations and controllers came out, that full kit was $1,400 US. And that was always a really big ask because spec-wise, it didn't really stand out from what else was coming out. Because at the same time, you had the Windows mixed reality headsets come out. Now, they may have had overall worse tracking than Vive. However, the actual headset specs, like resolution, frame rate, field of view, were all pretty similar to what the Vive Pro was. And those headsets were a fraction of the price at around about $250 to $300 US. So the Vive Pro never took off. It was way too expensive. Everyone was like, we'll just hold off. We'll wait until the next generation of Rift. We'll look and see if they do an actual replacement to the original Vive. And then these replacements started to come out. You had the Rift S come out at $400 US, which is, for what you get, it's a really good price. It's like, if you're new to VR, that's the headset to get. And then Valve enters the field with the Valve Index, and stock issues and quality control issues aside, it's really good value as well. And then you got HTC stuck in the middle with their overpriced Vive Pro, and instead of like dropping the price of that to make it its Vive successor, instead they try to release the Cosmos, which fails, and now they do the Vive Cosmos Elite. And honestly, I think this one's going to fail a bit as well. Like, I can think of a few pros in it, which I'll talk about in a second, but it's really hard to recommend this headset, considering the price, considering it's got outdated tech. I mean, you could go down the route of buying an original Cosmos, because you can buy the Lighthouse faceplate separately, and then you could buy the base stations and the controllers that you want. However, that's still going to end up being pretty expensive as well. So I've got some prices for the individual parts here, and the Cosmos Lighthouse faceplate on its own is going to cost $200 US. So that's just the actual tracking part that sits on the headset. Then you'll need to add Lighthouse 2.0 base stations, the external trackers, and then you need to add controllers as well. So if you want to go down the Vive route and get Vive Lighthouse 2.0s and Vive 1 2.0s, that's going to cost you $200 per Lighthouse, $200 per controller. So in total, that's $1,000 for the two lighthouses, the two controllers, and the Lighthouse faceplate, which is, it's pretty insane. That's as expensive as a Valve Index. Your other option, on the other hand, is to go the Valve route, because you can buy the 2.0 lighthouses, the base stations from Valve, and then you could buy Knuckles instead. And that works out to be $150 per base station and $280 for a pair of Knuckles controllers, which is significantly cheaper. That ends up being $780 once you include the $200 faceplate, which is still pretty expensive, but nowhere near as expensive as getting the Vive parts. And you get pretty much the exact same lighthouses, and you get way better controllers. So Vive's pricing has not made any sense for a very long time. And now that they've actually got some competition, I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to stick around for. They're not being competitive, they're releasing dodgy products, they're pricing them way too expensive. Yeah, it's really weird. I will mention some of the pros though, because there are a few things that the Cosmos Elite has going for it, which is that it does have the wireless adapter support. So that wireless adapter, like, I have one for my Vive. I bought it for my original Vive. That wireless adapter does work on the Vive Pro, the Vive Cosmos, and now the Vive Cosmos Elite. But then again, that is another $350 on top of the headset itself. So, I don't know. Wireless is pretty cool. It is really cool. It may be worth it to you. I'll be honest, if I had a choice though, I would always pick the Index over the wireless, mainly because of the frame rate and the field of view. At least for like competitive FPS gaming like what I do, That stuff is key. I need those features. Wireless, I can live without. Plus there's the fact that the Index is supposed to be getting its own wireless adapter down the track anyway. And then there's one other feature which hasn't been confirmed yet, but I have a sneaking suspicion it will be a feature, and that is that the Cosmos Elite still has 4 of the tracking cameras from the Cosmos. So the base Cosmos has got 6 tracking cameras. 4 of those are built into the frame of the headset itself, and the other 2 are actually from the faceplate. And one of the other headsets they announced, the Cosmos Play, is just a Cosmos that has the 4 built-in cameras and just a blank faceplate. So they're working towards having an inside-out tracked headset that only goes off of those 4 cameras. Now, if they decide that they're going to have that inside-out tracking for the Cosmos Elite as well, that could be cool. A headset that has lighthouse tracking when you're at your house. If you want to take it on the road, you can just use inside-out tracking. That could actually be really cool. You would have to buy a pair of the inside-out tracked Cosmos controllers, which are about $100 per controller, which is a lot better price-wise, but that could potentially be worth it. A headset that's $1,000 and it works at home and on the road, that could be worth it for some people. It's probably a bit of a niche use, but some people might find it worthwhile. Actually, speaking of those controllers, I would have loved to have seen Vive create a version of their Cosmos controllers for lighthouse tracking, because those are actually some really nice controllers. They're pretty similar shape-wise to the Rift S controllers, pretty similar size, pretty similar feel, but they have one feature which I've actually wanted on VR controllers for a long time, which is they have a trigger and a bumper, so they've got proper shoulder buttons. Now I know a lot of people are like, oh, extra buttons on your controllers, it's not immersive. I mean, that's the reason why the Vive ones only had a trackpad, they didn't have too many buttons. People thought it wasn't going to be immersive. I'm like, so what? Who cares? It's games. Immersion and realism are 2 totally different things, and the more buttons that we can have, the better. I want my controllers to be able to do as much as say an Xbox controller, and like I can think of some really good uses for shoulder buttons. Like imagine having shoulder buttons to do things like eject mags quickly, or yeah, combine that with the Steam VR input remapping, you could do some really powerful stuff with some extra buttons right there. So I would have loved to have seen them update the Cosmos controllers with lighthouse tracking, because I may have actually bought a pair then to use with my Valve Index, and they may have been able to give the Knuckles controllers a run for their money. But as it is, we're stuck with 4-year-old tech on a headset that's way overpriced. Yeah, it's just really weird. If you're in the market for a VR headset, I really can't recommend the Cosmos Elite. It's way too expensive for what it comes with. If you're new to VR, a Rift S will probably serve you better. If you want a more high-end device, you're better off waiting till the Valve Index is back in stock. Yeah, I don't know. It's odd. It's really odd. Maybe now that we've got some more headsets using lighthouse tracking, maybe Vive will start to feel the pressure, start to feel some like actual competition, and hopefully make some changes, because, you know, they've always been the only lighthouse game in town. Now they got the Index. I would really love to see some more companies get using the lighthouse tracking. Like LG, they had a prototype they were showing off ages ago, but nothing ever really came of that, which was kind of disappointing. Because, yeah, Vive, they seriously need some competition that they'll take seriously, because right now, Rift is like wiping the floor with them. They have no competitive advantage aside from a few edge enterprise cases, like the Vive Pro Eye is kind of cool, how it's got the eye tracking, but again, it's really expensive. The Vive Cosmos XR, the other headset they announced, which I haven't talked about, that looks kind of interesting because it's got 2 pass-through cameras for AR stuff. But on the consumer side, yeah, they're all over the place. So I'd love to see them get it together again, start making some cool, innovative technology. Seems like the only innovations they ever had was the tech they were licensing from Valve. So they don't seem to be doing too well on their own. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I could rant for HTC for hours and hours. However, I am trying to keep my salt consumption levels low, so I'll just cut it short now. Anyway, let me know down below if you've got a Vive Cosmos. Let me know how you found the headset. Let me know what you think of the Vive Cosmos Elite as well. Do you think this headset actually has a place in the VR market, or do you think it's going to be a flop? I'm keen to hear what you all think. I will see you all in the next one.